The following production is part of the We Be Geeks podcast collective.
From days long ago, from uncharted regions of the universe, comes a legend.
The dream that came through a million years, that lived on through all the tears.
It came here, the Fandom Nexus.
Fabulous secret powers were revealed to our host as he plugged in his microphone.
I have a podcast!
Here he is, your Spider-Pan, Jeremy.
Yes, we're back, and sooner than you expected, because honestly, we had started, and I probably should have kept the intro I did now that I think about it, but I accidentally hit stop on the recorder right in the middle of us recording a new episode, right at the intro. But we are back. It is both me and it is the Philip. The lost boy Philip, who's looking at his phone. There he is. He's looking at his phone over there. Something happened. But yeah, we are back, and later than I had been expected, and so much to where I am doubling up this episode. Not only are we going to talk about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and the mutant mayhem that is out there in theaters right now, but we're also going to be talking the Blue Beetle and our review on that. And fun thing about this, the Blue Beetle review that I have, you're going to hear 20 minutes of my appearance on a podcast called Nerds and Jesus, which means you get a special guest. Mary Howell will be joining me for the review of the Blue Beetle, which it's kind of a unique take because she's Latina. So she was actually able to have a different perspective on some jokes that were in the movie that us two pair of white guys would not have understand because the jokes were in Spanish. And yeah. Does Mom know? Did you ever see that movie? He's No Evil, Hear No Evil. It's with Richard Pryor and Gene.
Oh yes, I forgot.
And like, you mean I'm not white? Does Dad know? Or whatever. Like that's yeah. So yeah, so she had a different perspective and told me some of the jokes and some of the little comments that I would have missed because I don't know Spanish. But there's little things that she said,
awesome.
Like the English translation you were seeing at the bottom of the screen wasn't really a good translation for some of the humor and the funniness, and occasionally some swear words that were done in Spanish that we would not have known. One of them, for instance, one of the last things that where I cut off from my recording, because I only grabbed 20 minutes, and not even from the absolute beginning of her show. If you want to hear the whole show, you're going to have to go to Nerds and Jesus and find her episode. I'll make sure I put some links up somewhere, and go and download that episode if you haven't already. Maybe you're over here because you heard about me and you wanted to hear what this show is about. Who knows? But she shares some new stuff, like I always thought that Uncle Rudy was talking about mi corazón, which was my heart, and I thought he was calling Jaime that, but no, he's calling him, like, I'm going to mess this up. Here's my English trying to speak Spanish. It was Covazon. It was something like that. But basically, he was calling him a big head. So it's like this nice little nickname for his nephew. It was kind of adorable. So that and a lot of other fun stuff coming up later on the show. But until then, you've got Philip and I. And of course, I always like to kick off a show by what have you been watching? And I got something unique that I want to share with you. So I have a weird habit of, I watch a lot of different YouTube, but I watch some YouTube like martial arts instructors, and a lot of them, they go around the world. Some of them go around the world, and they go and they sample different types of martial arts, and they learn about different types of martial arts and different things and learn skills. People like Jesse Enkamp, also known as the Karate Nerd, Sensei Seth, a guy named Icy Mike, who is on his channel is Hard to Hurt with the number 2, and Kevin Lee, who I just recently discovered, who's kind of a little guy who does a lot of like Wing Chun Kung Fu, and also My Martial Arts Journey. But I watch a lot of these different ones, and I learn a lot of different entertaining things, but you don't actually learn martial arts watching these videos because you can't learn martial arts by watching them on a screen. We'll discuss this later. Philip probably knows what I'm about to get into later when we get to the right proper spot. But anyways, so the My Martial Arts Journey channel, the guy who runs it was able to coordinate with somebody in Australia who could set up various different challenges for martial artists to determine who is the best at self-defense. And he basically like this ultimate self-defense championship, and even had like a wrestling style title belt that they competed for. And he got some of these YouTubers in there, not Jesse Enkamp. He's going to be season 2 though, but Sensei Seth and Icy Mike was there, and some other people I wasn't quite familiar with that I got to meet along the way. And what was neat is every challenge was a combat situation of self-defense. Sometimes it was a unique situation, and one that really impressed me, and I was telling my wife about this. They went into an office, and there's an actress there, a woman, a very pretty woman, and that you sit down in the chair and you're supposed to be going over, she's supposed to be giving you like your quarterly review or something. And she starts to say, well, your job might be on the line from these mistakes in here, but I think we can work out something. Now, might seem normal, but except for she's very flirtatious the way she says it, and at one point she kind of puts a foot up on their lap, or she starts to unbutton her shirt a little bit. And so now you've got a defense situation. You're being sexually harassed as a male by a woman, and if you try to touch even her shoulder, push her off, she could scream or claim that you were harassing her. So you need to find a way to get yourself out of this situation to where you're not going to get accused of something that you weren't doing because she was actually the harasser. And it was very interesting. One guy excused himself. So, I'm sorry. Well, can we discuss this later? I really need to go to the restroom. And another guy, though, I felt bad for him. He did not realize what was happening. And he says, I'm terrible. I don't flirt with girls. I don't think, I've been told later that a girl was trying to flirt with me and I completely didn't notice. And he didn't realize anything was wrong until she unbuttoned a top button on her shirt. And that's when he's like, whoa, and he just got up, and I think one of them even grabbed some folders and stuff and put them between him and the girl and say, okay, no, I'm not touching you, you're not touching me, and got out of the room. But it was very interesting. So it's different situations and knowing when you're going to be in a fight and when not to, when it's better to run for your life or not. So it's very interesting. I definitely recommend it. It's just Ultimate Self-Defense. It's on YouTube. They're working on a second season. He has managed to crowdfund it. I would love for him to be able to turn this into a regular streaming service.
That'd be nice.
It would be great. Good. And I definitely recommend it. I posted the link up to my Facebook page, and even Jonathan Johnson of Diz Radio, he is a martial arts instructor even as well. I figured he would enjoy it, so I tagged him in and said, hey, watch this. I think you get a kick out of it. He was supposed to be able to join us to talk about the last episode, but he wasn't able to. It would have been fun to actually have him on this episode to talk some Ninja Turtles because he's around our age. I think he's a little younger than us, but he might have had fun talking about some Ninja Turtles too. I'm going to go ahead and just keep things moving and just move on to what have you been playing, because I was talking about Ninja Turtles, and this is kind of fits as a news thing because there's some new DLC coming out for Shredder's Revenge, and I realized as I've transitioned to PS5, my trophies didn't cross over, or my save games didn't carry over. So I've been replaying on Shredder's Revenge a little bit, and also replaying on the Cowabunga collection because my trophies didn't come over. So it gives me a chance to replay some of the games on the Cowabunga collection to unlock those. So that's what I've been playing.
Whoa.
Getting ready for August 31st, the DLC for Shredder's Revenge. We get Usagi Yojimbo and some other characters are going to be unlocked to play with some new challenge levels and stuff like that to play. I am super excited. I have my PlayStation card sitting over there with $10 on it, just waiting for me to use to get some DLC going. I'm super, 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 super excited for that. But also because...
Are you sure you're excited?
I'm pretty sure I am. But also because we're running a little bit behind on the show, I'm going to just keep pushing forward because we got so much to cover. We're going to go ahead and jump on the news.
Spanning the Disney and geek universe to bring you the best in comics, toys, movies, and entertainment. This is news from around Neverland.
Okay, now I've not gotten the read TMNT The Last Ronin. I don't know if you have. Have you?
Not all of it. I got like a preview of it before.
Okay.
Part of it had to do with when we had free comic book day.
Yeah, I think there was some. Well, did I manage to get some of the stuff? Because I think they're about to do a sequel one to it. But it became a huge hit. I really need to go purchase a copy and read it here. But there is a game in the works, and they recently found out that THQ Nordic is officially the developer of this game. This is, of course, based on the comic book series from 2022. Set in the future, The Last Ronin is a darker take on the franchise where all but one turtle has been killed by the Foot Clan.
Oh, my goodness.
With the lone survivor on a revenge mission to kill the grandson of the Shredder. Now, I happen to know who that last turtle is. If you don't know, I'm not going to say. I don't want to spoil anything. But... I'm getting this off of IGN, by the way, right now. It says The Last Ronin is one of the darker entries franchise, but it was a wildly popular comic book series. Last month, or a couple months ago, at San Diego Comic-Con, we learned that a sequel for Last Ronin was currently in the works, with the first issue slated to release on December 13th. The video game adaptation of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles The Last Ronin is being developed by Black Forest Games. I guess that's part of the other one. That's the developer best known for its remakes of Destroy All Humans and Destroy All Humans 2, which I have not played, but I do have available to me on PlayStation. I'm kind of excited for this, even having not read, just because it'll be different. And it's a Ninja Turtle game, so
Yeah.
I'm in to check it out. There is a little teaser trailer, but it's nothing but audio, and it really wouldn't. There's no dialogue, so it's really nothing useful to share with y'all. So. But here's something else. Something happening in the world of comics. I also found this on IGN. This is an article that says Batman Off-World brings Marvel icon Jason Aaron back to DC. He's actually Jason Aaron apparently has been a dominant voiceover at Marvel Comics over the past 15 years. He's done some runs on Wolverine, Thor, the Avengers, and now he's coming back to do something with Batman. Something called Batman Off-World, which is going to be a 6-issue limited series. It's got Jason Aaron working with artist Doug Menke, who's already worked on Detective Comics and the Green Lantern, and inker Jamie Mendoza. So this is taking Batman away from Earth and on a rare solo mission to an alien world. And they have a bit of a slideshow on IGN's page of some of the artwork, which, there's some of these characters remind me, like this one particular character, like Philip and I are looking at, reminds me of Poison Ivy. There's a really cool picture of Batman there with a gargoyle. But there's the character, well, you look at the grinning face, he's somewhere across between the Joker and Bane, perhaps. Something like a devilish looking dude. So, I mean, something really kind of odd and interesting going on and bringing Batman into more of a sci-fi area. So, it sounded curious. So I figured, when I saw this, like, this would be fun to share. And, look, DC's got an official description for the first issue here. It says, a routine night in Gotham City for a young Batman proves to be anything but routine when the crime fighter is confronted with a sort of foe he's never faced before, one from beyond the stars. Well, yeah, hasn't he fought the Predator a couple of times? Okay. Anyways, a universe of possible alien threats leads Batman to make a daring decision to venture alone into the far reaches of the cosmos for the very first time, where the Dark Knight will face the fight of his life. Of course, they are saying that this is a young Batman, so maybe
that's what I was thinking.
Maybe this is before he fights a Predator or various other alien entities as in the Justice League, like Darkseid. Mm-hmm. So... apparently, the writer also built a reputation in working on DC's Vertigo books, which is like the weird stuff. All right, next thing that I found that I thought was interesting. Oh, yeah. So we all know that... my ad blocker wants to pop up and get in my way. X-Men 97 is coming very soon to Disney+. The toys are already out, and one particular toy shows Wolverine without his mask.
Yeah, you can... Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, now, I don't know if this means that it's the same Wolverine toy and you can maybe swap the heads. I've seen some of these at Walmart. The very interesting thing about this, and it doesn't have a picture of the packaging, these new figures is they're in boxes. They don't have any plastic, but they've opened it up so you can see the figure. I mean, it's really just kind of there. Reminds me a lot of packaging I've seen at, say, like a Walmart or grocery store where they have the very cheap-looking figures. And these are very cheap-looking figures, the one I saw in the store. But, the interesting thing is there is a picture here that shows like a normal card back, and it does look like it has some spare heads, and it even looks like it has a mask figure. So I'm thinking there's another set of figures coming later that will have a card back, and maybe I'll pick some of those up and hang them on my wall. But they're based on this new animated series, so they're supposed to look kind of like the old animated series. I'm hoping there's going to be a better Cyclops figure, because the figure that I've seen that's in the box, he's got the imprint of his yellow underwear, I guess to say, but they just turned it blue, and that's not what he's going to look like apparently in the series. So, but they are confirming that you got some returning cast, that Cal Dodd is returning to voice Wolverine from the original series. Also, Lenore Zahn, I'm not sure, as Rogue. George Buza is back as Beast. Allison Seeley Smith as Storm. Christopher Britton as Mr. Sinister, who I hear is a major villain in this one.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's all that I know of who all is returning. I've heard the actor who played Cyclops did pass away. I saw some tributes to him, so unfortunately he's not returning. Don't know of any other actors, the actors for Jean or anything else. Don't know. For all of you anime fans that live in Kansas City, by the way, Planet Anime Kansas City is October 21st and 22nd this year. I've been getting emails about this because they're the same people who run Planet Comic-Con. And the nice thing is Naji Jeter, who is listed as Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, and The Last of Us. There's pictures of Miles Morales, I believe, from the game. So I believe that is the actor from the the PlayStation games, is what I'm getting from this. You also have a guy over here, Alex Lee, who he's listed as being Final Fantasy VII Remake. I'm not sure what character he's played in that. Also, I see Yuri Lowenthal, who is also, I believe he is the voice of Spider-Man in the Spider-Man games. Looks like he's also done some voices for like Ben 10 and the Castlevania series on Netflix. So there's actually a few people starting to show up that I actually would be curious to see. I'm not a big anime person. My wife is. But you've got a lot of people who've worked on Naruto, I see. So I see some Dragon Ball Z characters. Looks like one character, Kyle Hebert, is also the voice of Ryu in the new Street Fighter game. So that is coming up, by the way, in October here in Kansas City. If you happen to be a fan of anime, you might want to come and check this out, Planet Anime.
I'm not much into it either, but I do know that they have a lot of fans.
Oh, yeah. They got a lot of fans. And I would go, if there's a panel talking about the upcoming
Unique
Spider-Man
stories,
2
I'll tell you
game.
that.
Because actually, this is the weekend that game will come out, so I'd rather be at home playing this Spider-Man 2 game. I've already got it reserved, October 20th, brother.
Very, very unique stories in anime, I'll say that.
Mm-hmm.
And good animation.
Yep, if I didn't,
It's just not my style.
if I'd have managed to get 2 different episodes between the Ninja Turtle and the Blue Beetle one, Heather and I have been sitting and watching Fairy Tail, which is an anime that actually is kind of fun. Well, I'll discuss that maybe next episode. Alrighty, here's, by the way, so the new, it's the Dimension Shell Shock, which I mentioned a little bit earlier. That's the new DLC coming up for the new Ninja Turtles. Have you gotten to see some of this footage?
No, I don't think so.
Well, you notice how, see, this looks even a little bit more arcadey here.
Yeah,
and notice like there's different colors of the turtles.
Yeah.
And see like the toy, notice Leonardo has the brown like the old toys.
Coming to orangish brown, yeah.
Yes. So they've got some new styles and some new looks. This is kind of a long trailer, but this is coming August 31st. But they have different looks for the different turtles, and you can kind of customize them a little bit. I think you can put them all in all red, but you can actually have them all look like the Nintendo version of the Ninja Turtles 2 arcade game, where they were all just that solid green. You can do that.
Oh, I remember that.
Yes.
That's fun.
So many different kind of things.
That's fun.
Oh, you're gonna want to get it, especially that you have even levels that are like 8-bit looking levels, which you can kind of see on this picture here on my screen. I'm gonna go ahead and hit the button and let you kind of look at some of this image. Yeah, there's gonna be some sound here too. Okay, and that's really just a lot of music, so it's really hard for the podcast anybody to catch. But
now,
Philip has been reacting like, "Oh my gosh, look at this!"
But what I will say here is, there's this picture here. It looks to me like Raphael has the full headband on.
Yes, he does. This is the Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Nickelodeon series. Because you see Leonardo there with that kind of the weird scar thing or whatever or something.
Yeah.
Although that's also very similar to what Raphael is wearing in the new film.
Yeah.
I don't know if that look is necessarily in there, but they tried to integrate a lot of different styles. You could see April wearing a black jumpsuit even at one point.
Yeah.
Did you see that you got to play as Rocksteady Bebop and some other villains?
Yeah, I saw that.
And that's part of like a survival mode that you, after each area of survival that you get through, you get to choose like a power-up, and some of them can be to turn into a villain. You can even play as the Shredder himself.
Oh, really?
Yes, man. Cool. This is going to be so awesome. I am super, super excited for this. So once I get it, if you don't get it right away, dude, we'll online. We'll play some of this, man.
Yeah.
We haven't really gotten to play that one together so much.
Yeah, it's a fun stuff.
It's
back in the day.
Great, so much fun. Well, heck, it's even the nowadays. It's like it's the modern with the old, with the old school style with some extra moves.
Combination.
Mm-hmm. It's so. I mean, I was so excited for that game to come out, and I've not been disappointed. It was a lot of fun to play, and fun playing it again. Got some bad news to share. This came from Variety. The Tron 3 director says that the 150 plus crew members were all laid off as strikes shut down production We need to speed up the negotiating process. So, yes, the SAG-AFTRA strike and the writer strike, all that going on, has brought Tron 3 to a halt. But, like, it didn't have enough things that brought it to a screeching halt multiple times. This movie's been canceled so many times.
I know, and I love Tron. You know me.
This is...
I got a Tron display up above me. You know that.
Mine is, of course, down in my my master bedroom where all the Disney stuff is. But this is going to be called Tron Ares, and it's set to star Jared Leto, Evan Peters, Greta Lee, and Jodie Turner-Smith. And basically, the day when this story came out was supposed to be the first day of principal photography. So like, boof, they didn't get it. Can't manage to come up to a negotiation. Which, you know, one thing. All right, now I ain't taking sides on this, but I do find it's very interesting that in any line of work you do, you get paid only for the time you're working on it at that job. Right? You get paid for the time you work on it. It's only in this type of industry that you actually get residuals for just having it still exist, that you were in it and it still exists, and somebody watches it or somebody shows it. And so part of their deal is with now streaming services, they need to work out something how they get the residuals. Now, I'm not going to say right or wrong, but I find it interesting that seems to be the only area, and I guess it might have something to do with like copyright thing, you know, and rights, but where everybody gets paid. But I wonder, did the crew get paid? I mean, writers should get paid, and I mean, the actors get paid, don't they? I mean, I know the actors get paid, but I don't know if the writers get paid. But what about all the crew people who worked on it? Does everybody get a residual for that? I make ads for a television station. I don't get residuals every time they show the ad that I make. But yeah, I'm not taking sides on this, and I definitely don't want them replaced by AI actors. That's definitely wrong.
No,
but I have a hard time taking sides on this. I mean, I want everybody to get paid fairly, but I feel more for the lower level actors and a lot of the voice actors who don't get paid millions per project. When I have millionaires telling me that I need to support them, I have a hard time saying, "Oh, you need more money?"
Yeah, I know.
Okay, so yeah, that's my 2 cents. Everybody's going to send me hate emails now, right? Watch this.
Well.
Okay, something else that this is some new news, I guess. This is. I don't know. It's sad, but I feel good for him getting to retire. But Charles Martinet has retired from voicing Mario, and he says, "You are number one in my heart."
I heard it, too.
Which is kind of cute. So Martinet is not involved in an upcoming Super Mario Brothers Wonder game that's coming in October 20th on Nintendo Switch. He's not involved in the game, but they want to honor his legacy. But he's going to be a Mario ambassador. Now, I figure though. And I hope they do pay him every new game they make. I think that is fair to pay him for a new game if they use his voice. Because really, all he's got to go, wah, wahoo! Most of his stuff is probably done, unless he has to talk any dialogue. Yeah. So they could reuse his wah, wahoos and it's me over and over again, as far as I know. I haven't played any like the newer Mario games.
Well, how many games have they done? I mean,
they just keep coming. I mean,
yeah,
really.
they never stop. So they got so much of him, you know.
Yeah.
And back to the whole AI thing. Even though you don't necessarily want to do it with a voice, it's a little bit different when it's just like if you want him to say, "What's that?" You know, let's say you haven't done that yet.
Yeah. Well, they can actually get AI now to do that. You can have they're actually doing it right now on Avengers and Odyssey, where one actor has passed away, but they needed that character, and the actor and his family gave the blessing when he passed away. It's like, no, keep the character going somehow. So they had an actor perform as the character, but they used AI to turn his voice into the other actor's voice. So, I mean, it's possible.
That's cool.
I was even just watching something today where a very popular song called The Rich Men North of Richmond. If you haven't heard that. Yeah. I watched today somebody did AI to put Hank Hill, King of the Hill's voice on it instead and change the voice. So it's kind of scary what you can do with AI, and I don't feel like we should be replacing people unless they say they're okay with it. And if you do use their voice or something, they should get paid for every new project. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
But
if you're making money, at least. I mean, if it's just for a fun thing on YouTube or something, that's a whole nother. Well,
a fun thing on YouTube, but you got to be careful. There's copyright rules on that too.
Well, that's true. I'm talking about like if you're just doing it for the fun of it, like on if you're not making money and all that, because I don't think.
Well, whether you're making money or not is nothing to do with copyright law. You can still get stabbed with that. So just don't do it. Just don't do it. Alrighty. So another one. This actually came off of truffleshuffle.co.uk. It costs 14. I clicked the wrong thing. It costs £14.99. It's a never-ending story planter gnomes, and This
Isn't that
is
cute?
Atreyu. This is not cute. This is Atreyu with Artaxis when Artaxis is falling down into the bog of sorrow. He's giving into the sadness and dying right here.
Oh, that's right.
Did you not see Neverending Story?
It's been a long time. I forgot about
This
that.
traumatized children almost as much, or if more than Bambi's mother dying. Okay, and somebody has made a planter of this to put. And what this is you put it in your plotted plants. You put it in your dirt, so it looks like they're sinking in to the bogs of sorrow. Oh my
For some
gosh,
reason-
people!
For some reason, I thought I forgot that's what was going on.
Yes,
It's been such a long time since I watched that.
The horse is slowly dying.
Don't hate me for not saying this. I always thought it was a stupid movie. I'm not saying this bad.
Send your
There's a lot of
emails
things-
to philipkuntz@hotmail.com.
That's right. I always thought it was a dumb movie. Even as a kid, I thought, oh, this is a stupid film. But there's things about it I like, but I always thought it was really dumb. But
This is also
I
somebody who
forgot.
didn't really enjoy Lord of the Rings either, folks. So he's just not
Well, I
wired that
did.
way.
I did at first. I thought I got burned out on it. That's all. But I actually like things about that film. But I just forgot about the horse dying. I love horses. That's the name. That's the meaning of my name. Actually, love every horses.
Well,
But
there you
no,
go.
I didn't. But I'll be truthful. If I was to make anything from that film, now maybe not for Planter, but that
There we
flying
go.
dog thing.
Oh, the
That
luck
flying
dragon.
dog.
Yes.
Luck Dragon. I always want to call him
Yes.
a dog for something. He looked like a dog.
And-
Well, he looked like my dog back then.
Why in the world
looks
is
like
now
a dog.
my brain is not thinking of the name of the luck dragon?
Yeah, I like the Luck.
And he even had a
Dragon. He's
famous
my
voice
favorite.
that did the voice. I think. It's the voice of Skeletor.
Oh,
He's
yeah,
the voice of the luck
Alan,
dragon.
oh, is he really?
Alan
Yeah, I
Oppenheimer.
never would have
Yes, is the voice of the luck dragon.
I knew it was Alan.
I feel like I need to have you sit down and watch it again, and maybe as an older you might appreciate it now because you didn't like it as a kid. I don't know.
I watched it about a year ago.
And still did
a year
it?
or two ago.
Still think it's stupid though.
I like things about it, but I
But-
still think it's just really goofy. But I like it.
Yeah.
I mean, things about it. But I
Yeah.
still thought, oh man,
Because
that's-
your overall thing is not necessarily fantasy. You're more sci-fi, but you do love sword and sandals like Conan the Barbarian.
I like sci-fi. I like fantasy. Remember, I like Wizard of Oz and all that.
Well, Wizard of Oz is like different. It's not like a fantasy. It's kind of different.
No.
It's more fairy tale. There's a different kind of level, but
I still
you're just
forgot
not a
that
big
the
fan
horse
of things. But yeah,
Depends on the fantasy.
but I figure if we just need a planter now of Bambi searching for his mother, and our trauma will be complete.
No. That'll break my heart.
Yep. Well, it's time to get your redneck on and go to the trailer park.
Yay.
Mama, another gator got in the house.
Another gator? Give me that shovel. Come here.
Get him, Mama. Get that gator.
The Neverland Trailer Park.
All right. We're doing pretty good. We're keeping the show rolling as fast as possible. Now, the odd thing is this. It's a little bit of thing from Ahsoka, but by the time you hear this episode, you'll probably be able to watch the first episode.
Everyone in the Order knew Anakin Skywalker.
I wanna see
Few would
that.
live to see what he became.
By the end of the Clone Wars, I walked away from him and the Jedi.
In this war, you will face more than just droids. As your master, it's my responsibility to prepare you. I won't always be there to look out for you.
I could use the help.
Once a rebel, always a rebel.
Don't be afraid. And trust your instincts. I know you can do this, Ahsoka.
2-episode premiere is officially launching on the 23rd. Now, what's noticed, Hayden Christensen, we get to see him, and we hear him like she's flashing back to Anakin training her a little bit, it seems.
Neat.
That from what because that's his voice you're hearing when he's talking about training.
And
so
the man that they showed training her, he passed away. The man with the beard, it showed he passed away not long ago. He was,
oh goodness,
great actor. He played Punisher.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, he's
and
it's a
that
bad
second
movie.
Punisher movie, the Warzone one, right? Yeah,
it was a bad movie, but he was a good choice for Punisher.
Yeah, he looks the part.
Oh, he's a great actor. He was on the movie Rome, I think it was called, on the miniseries of that. Really great actor. He played what do you call it? Basically a warrior that they would put out there in the
a gladiator.
warfield. Gladiator, yeah,
Okay.
thank you. Could think of the name. But they put him out there, and he was really great in that show. I'm telling you, he'd be out there and you see him fighting. I was like, man, that guy, he looked like he was just made to be a gladiator. He'd be out there in the middle of the thing, and I was like, man, that guy's built right. And so when I heard he's going to play Punisher, I was like, that guy, that's perfect for it. And then I saw the movie, and the movie was horrendous. But he was perfect, and he did the part well, too. It's a shame that the rest of me wasn't good.
Yeah. I still haven't finished watching Star Wars Rebels, so I'm hoping I can just jump and watch Ahsoka without being confused. Because Hera being back in there. Too. Yeah, because I mean, I don't know, the animated series are good, and a lot of the series of Star Wars, I can enjoy them, but I don't get as excited about them as I did like the original trilogy. They don't grip me, but I do enjoy those series, even the animated. But I don't know, it doesn't hold my attention long enough to keep watching. And now I'm like, I got like 2 seasons or something to watch, but I do want to get to the point. I want to see what happens between Obi-Wan and Darth Maul, or just Maul because he's no longer Darth. I want to see that final confrontation. I've seen pictures of, so nobody tells me what happens. I know Obi-Wan's going to live through it, but I kind of wonder, what happens in that. But I'm interested to see some of the characters come around, and it looks like some of the story they might have grabbed from Timothy Zahn's Heir to the Empire. Looks like they're trying to bring some of that in. I don't know, but we'll find out. We'll find out, and we'll check it out. So pretty excited to check it out. All right, there we go. And the next thing. Here we go.
Welcome, class of 2020. A new class of tunes is starting at Acme Luniversity.
Acme Lu is a place where tunes come to discover themselves as individuals.
Babs! Buster! We've never been apart. Don't they know twins come as a pair?
I go by Plucky. You, Buster Bunny, are first and foremost my rival.
I could never do something that wonderfully cuckoo.
Think funny thoughts.
You don't want to mess with Sweetie T Bird.
What's the T stand for?
Thunder! They'll be learning from the very best.
Are you ready to be introduced?
Great job up there, kids. You have soft toilet.
That's a chair.
To be the wackiest, looniest tunes they can be.
Was that funny?
Tiny Toons Luniversity premieres September 9th at 9 on your Cartoon Network.
Okay, well, I don't have Cartoon Network anymore, but yes, Tiny Toons has been rebooted, and they're aiming it at kids, which is probably a good idea, because us adults would probably the first thing we would notice, like, wait a minute, Buster and Babs are twins, because remember their joke? Hi, I'm Buster Bunny. Hi, I'm Babs Bunny. No relation.
Yeah.
Because some of the running jokes was them that could make jokes about relationships and dating with them too, and now they're brother and sister, so I guess you can't do that joke anymore.
No.
So, but it looks like they're the same kind of humor though that Tiny Toons had, and just whacking each other with mallets or whatever. So I think kids are probably going to enjoy this.
Now, Tiny Toons, for the animation used to be a lot better, but I will say this. Because I noticed that stuff.
Yeah,
but
preach.
and Steven Spielberg was the producer of it.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is Tiny Toons came around and it first aired right when I became a freshman in high school back then. And the reason I know that is because I got a lot of personal reasons to remember it. But the very first episode I saw dealt with Star Wars, and it was the very first day that they were. I'll call them here in a little bit. Anyway, it was the very first day that they aired that. I was about to try it for football, and I was about to try it for football at high school, and I felt like the Lord was telling me not to, and so I walked all the way home knowing why God was telling me not to. And so when I found out later the reason why was I had a brain tumor, and then I saw that Tiny Toons was on, and I found out if I had been hit even once I would have died.
Yeah.
So thank God, and so Tiny Toons is connected to me personally.
Yeah.
And so that's why I always think about that. It's like, so I remember that every day, the first day of Tiny Toons being on in Star Wars. And so I was like, I fell in love with it right away.
Yeah. Well, Tiny Toons was sometimes funny to me, but Animaniacs to me was funnier. Tiny Toons, it seems like they didn't have the timing right for hitting somebody over the head. It just if something just didn't quite have the same punch as Looney Tunes.
Plucky
but it was kind of fun. Yeah, Plucky was always fun. Water go down the hole,
Yeah, that's what I always think of.
Yep.
But I got to say, Animaniacs was my favorite.
Yes, loved Animaniacs. Because it was more wordplay and not just relying solely on whacking each other over the head.
And it was also, there was a lot of education stuff in it.
Yeah.
And they also had, it was based off a lot of the old classic animation stuff.
Yeah, they were supposed to have been from the 30s. Yeah.
They were a lot more fun. And they came around when I was just a senior in high school, actually. So,
actually, earlier than that, because I think it was my sophomore year that I remember Animaniacs. We were always quoting Animaniacs, so it was my sophomore year in high school. I think it was only maybe a year after Tiny Toons that Animaniacs was on, and because they were like did like a whole hour of stuff, and then Batman the Animated Series would come on after, because I remember watching Animaniacs early on because. Or maybe, no, it might have been my junior year after all. Actually, I think it was my junior because I remember Tatum was still around, and Tatum, I think, left after that and went to a different school. And actually, it was like my friend Tatum and everything. I did a scene out of Mice and Men in drama class, and then she left. And actually, funny enough, dated one of my cousins. So, but I'd actually run into her again and found her on Facebook. She actually showed up at somebody's wedding that I'm related to, and I can't remember whose wedding or whatever, but she was actually there. I was like, oh my gosh, Tatum, I haven't seen you since high school. So, yep. But I just got to remember that because she was a real big fan of Animaniacs and also of Jim Carrey during the times of In Living Color, and she loved to do her Fire Marshal Will thing at the teeth. She would do that. But yeah, that's why I always remember, because she always was in drama class. She would always be cracking up on stuff on Animaniacs. So anyway, so the next, now I've got a couple trailers here that are game trailers that are stuff that has popped up today because of Gamescom. And this one I'm super excited for. I'm sure you haven't played Alan Wake there, Philip, but those of you that played Alan Wake 2, is coming. And so here's a full story style trailer for Alan Wake 2 that's premiered today.
In a horror story, there are only victims and monsters. And the trick is not to end up as either. But trapped by the genre, we're all ripped to pieces along the way.
No! Welcome! We have a great show for you here tonight. Alan Wake, one of my all-time favorite writers, and guests on the show. He's here to talk about his latest book. Initiation tells the story of a fictional writer named Alan Wake, who is trapped in a nightmare, desperately trying to find the manuscript of a novel he has forgotten he has written.
Did you write these pages, Mr. Wake?
I'm trying to remember it. You're the killer, the cult leader.
No! You've got the wrong man! It's my fault! He got out!
Wake has a double. Where is he now?
I don't want to be in the story, just write me out of the story.
Wow.
October 27th. Only thing is, I put my money on for October. Huh? Yeah, they looks like they filmed some more live people, which Remedy has kind of had to do that.
That was a movie because I looked away for a minute and I looked back and I thought you was watching a movie preview for a second.
Oh no, but they used a lot of live footage here. Remedy is the people who created Max Payne, which I don't know if you've ever played any of those, Phil, but they did make a movie based off of that one.
And I watched the movie actually too.
The movie wasn't terrible. I kind of enjoyed it. It was kind of fun. But so Alan Wake, in the first one, to kind of sum up for those of you who haven't played this, and I want to be careful and delicate. I don't want to spoil because you should really play it. They did remaster it for PS4. It basically tells the story of an author who has got some writer's block named Alan Wake, and he's kind of a horror thriller mystery writer. Him and his wife go off to this little town. And then, through mysterious circumstances, his wife disappears. He finds that he's been in some sort of accident, and he's noticed like people are possessed by this darkness, and the only way to get them out of them and to fight them is to shine a flashlight on them. But you have to concentrate it, so it makes your batteries run your flashlight. So every time you're running around at night, because during the day you try to solve some of the mystery, then at night you kind of end up fighting for your life and shining a light on these people to weaken them so you can kill these possessed monster people. So it was really this thriller and try to put it all together. And then by the end, in order to save his wife, to get her out of wherever she was, he had to trade places with her and go into this weird alternate dark dimension where he is now trapped because he can't get out unless somebody trades places with him. And along the way, he finds pages of a story that he supposedly wrote, but he doesn't remember writing them. And he hears all the stories about this other author that's supposed to be real, but yet nobody knows who this other author was. But this author apparently previously disappeared. And the cool thing is there's another game Remedy made called Control, which was fun to play. It actually had some DLC where you find out it's in the same universe as Alan Wake, and it deals with the fact that Alan Wake is trapped somewhere, but this alternate version of Alan has come out. There's a name for him, but like this villain who looks just like him, but he's like an evil doppelganger. And that person who they're talking about has been released into the real world. And to make things really weird, they're talking about Alan Wake as a character and not as being a real person here in this trailer. So, I mean, there's so much weird stuff going. Oh, but
that's weird.
It was so much fun. It was a really difficult game because, you know, working around the mechanic of having to shine your flashlight on something and hold it for a while until you brought, you know, you weakened the dark entity that was possessing people before you could actually kill them. And of course, he's being accused of murdering people. It's like, no, these people were like weird dark zombies, except for they all can still talk and they're stuck at whatever point that they were. So like a mechanic will holler weird mechanic things at you as he's trying to kill you with a crowbar. I mean, at one point a guy chases you with a chainsaw. I mean, it's like suspense. It's like a horror, but it's not like graphic, bloody horror. It's more mindful. But the original Alan Wake was great, and we've waited a long time for this sequel. And I'm super excited for it, but unfortunately it's coming out here in October where I've already put all my money into buying Spider-Man 2. So that's what I'll be playing. So I'll have to wait for Alan Wake 2. But I'm super excited to go and see what sort of mysteries and see if Alan can get himself out of this dark dimension where he's trapped. Because basically how the pages, I don't want to spoil too much here, but how the pages that you find of this novel that's like he's written, but every time he reads something, whatever he just read happens. And it turns out everything he's reading is being written by himself in the dark dimension, trying to write his way out of the story so he can escape. So it's like stuff that he hasn't written yet, but yet he has. So it's like weird. And a lot of people, they were saying that this was really inspired by like Twin Peaks, which I never watched that series. But it's like that weird small town where mysterious things going on. But maybe nobody really believes Alan Wake when he's trying to tell them what's going on. Except for his publicist or agent or whatever comes along trying to help. It's like, what, your wife's missing? Well, I'm coming to help. And
Twin Peaks was ahead of its time, really.
That's what I've heard. I feel like I need to watch it because I really enjoyed this game, and I'm thinking I probably would like that series.
I'll tell you that.
Oh, but I'm super, super, super excited for that game. That, and of course, you know, Resident Evil or Final Fantasy Rebirth coming next year. And here's something I didn't know much about. I still don't really know anything. But it's got my interest, and this is kind of a story trailer for a game called Quantum Error, where you play a firefighter, I think in the future, who goes to put out a fire and finds a lot more than he bargained for. Dark sci-fi, man. It's going to be mature, so I don't know how much coverage we'll give it, but I wanted to show this to Philip.
Always ready. That day, I was not ready to lose you. But I will not give up. Whenever I am called to duty, and wherever the flames rage, grant me the strength to save another life. Even though I could not save you. Help me to hear the faintest shout. Give me courage. And please help me to put every fire out.
Jacob, if this facility, tech, that artifact gets into the wrong hands, there may not be anyone left to save.
The fireman mocks my powers.
I don't know! Don't look at me like that. We're all getting out of here together. Two in and two out.
Letting the music kind of go, but yeah, it's coming in November, and I thought it was supposed to be in the future, but now it looks like as a fireman, he's a modern day fireman who's, it's like he's thrown into this alien world after he's going to responding to this fire, and it looks just weird and wild, and I'm very intrigued by what's going on in the story of this game, so I kind of want to check this out.
It's hard to say what it is. It's it does look. One thing I like about video games nowadays, though, depending on what you're playing, it looks like you're living out a film.
Mm-hmm. They can do so much more now. Now you get to play through an entire story, and where a movie might end in 2 hours, you can go on adventures for 40 hours now to tell
longer,
a complex story.
On the movie, or the game.
Yeah,
excuse me.
yeah. A lot of people at 40 hours think they've been cheated and didn't get enough for their money's worth.
Yeah.
But that just looks very weird and wild, and I love the character's attitude. He's got that fireman's attitude, especially the two go in, two go out. It's like, I'm not leaving anybody behind, and if please let me hear a sound. Give me courage and let me hear the sound so I can save anybody I can. It's like, I love that's the mentality of our hero. So, okay, but it's time to get some movie reviews. So first we're going to jump into Blue Beetle.
Want to see a movie?
Yeah, any good?
It was bad?
I'm fuzzy on the whole good-bad thing.
My eyeballs could have been sucked from their sockets.
I like it a lot. The best movie ever made.
A Fandom Nexus movie review.
Alrighty, so I have a special guest now with me that you're gonna love her. She's just a hoot. The fun thing is, you're hearing this. I've already recorded the review. So, but you're going to hear a review for DC's The Blue Beetle. Actually, I guess it's just Blue Beetle. But if you want to hear the whole thing, because we got a little spoiler, I'll warn you now. But if you want to hear the complete review in this conversation that went on for like an hour, you're going to have to go listen to this really fun show, Nerds and Jesus, hosted by Mary Howell. Hi, Mary.
Hey.
So this is Mary.
This is me.
So you have this fun show, Nerds and Jesus, which I just heard of. You fairly new show, right?
Fairly new. We're about. I always say we because I feel like it's a whole community thing.
Yeah,
we're all in this podcast together. I'm just hosting it and talking and babbling, too. Yep. We're about 5 months old. Started back in mid-March, and have released every week since. So
nice.
Yeah.
And it's good to have that consistency. That's something I'm working on getting back. Sorry, y'all, for not having an episode. They don't have a gap there, but I have personal reasons finally. So
okay, I did miss one. I have to admit.
It happens.
I was traveling, and I was like, I was the beginning of it. I was like, okay, I gotta get on it. But yeah, no, it's we're I that's kind of how I always have a different guest every episode. Sometimes it's repeat but different subject, and we talk everything of just all nerd things, but also like seeing it through a Christian perspective. And also, a lot of different subjects and interviewing a lot of different folks as well. I just interviewed Bible X from the new Gate Zero video game that's coming out.
Oh, neat. I need to talk to them.
Yeah. So I just got to talk to them, and they'll be coming up soon. But yeah, we're just a lot of different subjects with all things nerds related through Christian perspective. So if that's your niche, also, since you're also listening to this podcast as well, with Jeremy. So welcome nerds. Yes.
Oh, indeed. Yes. We'll join the club. So and here's kind of the fun thing, and I had to bring this up because when I was talking to you, I realized, your initials MEH meh. Which is funny, especially if you're I'm sure you've heard that before, especially if you're a Glove and Boots fan and you're familiar with Gorilla, and the only word he ever says is meh. But here's what's funny is you're meh. Now, if you put my wife's initials before mine, it comes out to Has Juniors.
LOL.
Yeah. The funny part is we don't have any children, so I don't have any juniors. I have cats. But I don't want to change my
pets
initials.
Are our children.
Yeah. That's what I tell people. I say I get to celebrate Father's Day because I'm a father of right now 3 cats. That works. I'm a pet dad. The only part it would be weird.
My Mother's Day. I was like, oh, my dog.
Yeah. The only part that gets weird to me is when I see people that when they have children and pets and then they refer to their pet as that's your brother or your sister. That feels weird to me. I mean, I understand you saying being a pet parent because I have to literally take care of them. But my brothers and sisters didn't have to take care of me that way. So it sounds weird. Yeah. So I wouldn't. If I had children, I wouldn't put them in that. They would be, well, this is your buddy. And they're my other children, my pet children, my fur babies, but they're not the same as a human child. And I wouldn't want to put them on the same level. If I had a human child, it'd be very different from my fur babies. There's a difference there. But yeah, I thought that was funny when I was like, her initials are Matt and ours is Has Juniors. That's funny. I have to laugh at stupid stuff every once in a while. I've had reviews that said we were funny, so I'm going with that.
There you go.
Somebody must like it. And, hey, you got what you pay for and you're listening for free. There you go.
Exactly.
But anyways, let's get into this review. And I tell you what, y'all, Mary has a great perspective on this because, well, she'll tell you here in a little bit. Yeah, and it's very interesting. Like Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko, when they started to do some work over with DC, Jack Kirby had a lot of characters he loved working with in Marvel. So you'll notice DC has a few characters that mirror some of the characters that Jack Kirby had worked on in Marvel. He'll bring them over to DC. And heck, watching this movie, I was thinking Iron Man a lot.
Honestly, yeah. I think that's one of the things. Yeah, like non-spoiler review. I think. Well, one thing I got really, really excited about is because in the films, the actual. Let me pull up, make sure I have all the info correctly. But the Blue Beetle originally, is from El Paso, Texas, in the comics. And so I'm from El Paso, Texas, and I grew up on the border. I'm Mexican American. Like, the movie was in Spanglish, basically, and my heart was so happy because, so Blue Beetle, like the film, changed Jaime Reyes' like city compared, to his original comic book lore, which is El Paso, Texas. And so, but that's why they had, you kind of see a little ode to it later, but in it. So I was so excited because I was like, it's our El Pasoan. I grew up there. My family's in Juarez, Mexico, on the border, and just exactly the way his family is how my family is. And it makes my heart so happy versus minus a lot of the more of the cussing in Spanish, which no one really caught because the English translation didn't really do it, but there was. But because a lot of my family's Christian, so we don't really cuss as much.
They're cussing in Spanish.
But honestly, I think and that's what I'm curious. This is going to be a really interesting and unique review, just because here, from my perspective, being Latina and being from the actual city where he's based out of, technically, but also having you on here where you're able to see from an outsider. And I mean, really from, a non-Mexican American. Like, I'm curious about y'all's reviews because the reviews are going to be different because I think, and I see both sides of it, of everyone else, like Latinos who are really excited about it and they loved it, versus the other side's kind of like, it's kind of your average superhero movie sometimes, but yes, I'm curious to see. I enjoyed it. I did, there's some cliches for sure in the film that, as you see in normal, but I don't know. I absolutely, I really liked it. I cried. I laughed. Yeah. Obviously these are non-spoilers, so if you haven't seen the movie, definitely go watch it. But
that's one thing I really and some people say that I have maybe a stereotype in my head because I have never met a Filipino or a Filipina that wasn't the sweetest person ever. And I've never met any Mexican that wasn't huge on their family. That is most a super respectable thing, that family is super important. And seeing that in this movie where family was such a great dynamic, oh my goodness, that's something I feel like is missing out of a lot of movies where you have this great family dynamic. And every member of the family was so different. And oh my gosh, George Lopez cracked me up. He's so funny in this.
Phenomenal. Honestly, I was kind of weary. George Lopez in it. I guess we haven't seen him in a lot of stuff, but he was great.
He was so, and I love the fact his like mullet and that beard. My buddy Philip was saying he looked like Captain Lou Albano, which might be before your time. I don't know, but he had some of the best lines, and he was so funny, and he was so relatable to the way he could react to everything, but it yet felt natural. I thought his sister was kind of a jerk at times, but I'm like, that's a sibling thing,
Yeah.
But I loved all the members of his family, and that's one of the things I felt that made Shazam such a strong movie, is such a great family dynamic that it's like that's how this works. And you have where it's not just the character who's now become the superhero, but the family being supportive of that.
Exactly. And I honestly reminded me of Shazam because of the family aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
And like also we've been I think these past couple of years, honestly, Shazam really broke that stereotype of DC's films of being more on that dark side of it. Very dark, very, not just like, the storyline, but also even the cinematography behind it. And I think, going into, Shazam, it kind of opened us like, oh, there's a whole side of DC that we just haven't seen yet on film.
Right.
If you haven't seen the TV shows, because I love The Flash and I love The Arrow and all them, and I've enjoyed watching all that, but seeing, at least this one brought a lighter, fun comedy, to it a little bit. But yeah, it was really well. And, even with Blue Beetle, the character, first time I was introduced really to Blue Beetle, like I did not really read much of the comics of Blue Beetle, but I watched Young Justice a lot. So he's in the animated show. Blue Beetle's in it.
Yeah, I guess so.
And so in a lot of some of the animated series. And so that's kind of where I was introduced to him originally. And so that's why I was like, oh, I'm El Paso, just like that.
Yep.
So, but seeing like not just the for me again, not just the first Mexican superhero, but like the first El Pasoan, like he's from my city, like that's where I grew up, and I went to high school and all my family. So, there's definitely a heart of this movie. And I was like,
I love Jaime.
I loved it.
Because I had heard of the Blue Beetle. I knew he existed, but I make mine Marvel. And I think the first time I remember seeing it, I might have been Young Justice. It's been a long time since I watched Young Justice, but I remember watching that. But also, I remember Batman the Brave and the Bold. He came in there, but he always felt like that young kid, and he's got and even in this movie, he's got that Peter Parker-ish thing where he's kind of young, and he's just like trying to get his hands around this responsibility of having this tremendous amount of power that's just kind of lands on him that he was just not expecting, and dealing with that. And I think even Brave and the Bold is kind of fun where they have Batman kind of mentors him, and there's even a great episode where he got in there and I love that this it is dealt with a little bit in the movie of the choice to, because I think it was a Brave and the Bold where at one point Blue Beetle's kind of questioning Batman, if we killed these people, they wouldn't keep coming back. And so he in the animated series, he learns from Batman, like, no, we don't kill. And I don't want to say too much, but that was a very interesting feature in the film as well, where there's that line of like, how to be a hero. And despite all the horrible things the villain does to even Jaime's family, he doesn't cross that line. I'm like, oh, that's the type of positive thing. Thank you,
it
writers
reminds
of this
me
movie.
a lot of The Flash. I think when I watched that series, like obviously other films said, but like I remember like I just really brought me back to The Flash of like that was his whole thing of like we just don't kill,
right?
We don't kill. It's showing that you were saying, complete opposite of Batman. It's complete opposite side of him. Like that is not who we are. And absolutely loved it. But we're gonna jump over to spoilers because it's really hard not to spoil anything right now.
Alrighty.
I was like,
You've been
I have
warned.
so many things. I was like, so if you have not, listeners, if you have not watched the film, go pause right now and go watch the movie and then come back and keep playing.
Yeah.
So
trade your tickets for Barbie in and get Blue Beetle tickets instead.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Spoilers in 3, 2, 1. All right. Here we are.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, so I don't know if you. Well, I guess a lot of things happen in this film.
Oh yeah. Oh my goodness.
I guess for me, I got really excited about the Easter eggs of El Chapulín that they talk about. The animated that they had on it.
So that was a real thing.
So that I grew up with El Chapulín, and also El Chavo del Ocho is actually a show and that aired like in 70s and stuff like that. And what happened was that it's the show El Chavo del Ocho is it's a comedy and everything, but they watch a television show of this superhero, of a Mexican superhero, like it's like a parody of superhero show kind of thing. It's called El Chapulín Colorado, and that is what the animated show that they were showing on it.
That's so cool.
It's exactly, and I was like, oh my god, and because I grew up like watching El Chavo del Ocho and knowing of El Chapulín and everything, like just going over to my grandma's house growing up as a kid, and like even seeing it like every time we go over across the border and go to Mexico, like that was what my grandmother we would always watch the show because there was no cable, so that's what we would watch. And it showed up in the middle of it, and my sister and I looked at each other, we were like, "Oh my gosh!"
Oh. Did you stick around for the end credits? Because he came back at the very end.
Yes.
Lopez. That's so sexy.
Well, it's funny because the guy who was in the when they started playing that show, just to get inside to block the security cameras, the guy's like, "Oh, look at Chapulín." It's like, and so that was like my favorite,
so
I think,
cool.
Easter egg of just including a Mexican like television show that we all grew up with growing up.
Neat.
So I think that was really cool.
And that makes me curious because they kept referencing, I don't know if it was a song or a TV show or something where with it's like, the white person comes, the rich white person comes to the poor Mexican or something. They kept talking about something and I was like, well, what are they talking about? Was that a thing? Because I even saw something like there was something about a song in the credits that I saw that I was like, that sounds like what they were talking about, where it was like, because they say, "Oh, this is just like da 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 da." Oh yeah, and then they get all excited about it. I'm like, I feel like I'm missing something.
Oh,
because every time like Jenny
also
pops
a
up,
reference to an opera, like a telenovela. They kind of made an ode to that as well on the show called Maria la del Barrio.
Yeah, that's the one.
Maybe
I was wondering, like, is that a real thing?
Yes, it is. So it's it's a reference to a classic telenovela, and that one premiered it's a Mexican telenovela from 1995, and so it was really popular. I didn't watch it, but I knew of it. So I didn't really understand as much of the jokes from the actual show, but I never watched it myself. But I know like my family and some people who did. But yeah, it's just a character, who's born very poor with no one to take care of her, and then later is welcomed to a rich family, and then it just changed her lives completely, and then so that's why like Jaime's family joked about how Jaime's relationship with Jenny made him the Maria de la del Barrio, which is of the story going from a poor neighborhood to the halls of the mighty Cord Industries kind of thing. And
I kind of got that was what they're going about, but I was like, but what are they referencing? I don't get it. So I was like, see, I'm glad.
And
that's
I think
cool.
that's one of the things that I loved it, but also I wish it translated for those who didn't really know Spanish, because a lot of the subtitles just did not do it justice at all. Like some of the things that they would say is so funny in Spanish that it just doesn't translate in English.
Oh.
Like even like it would say like it would translate in English, but like we're laughing so hard. But it's funny because it was just my sister and I are probably the only probably Mexicans in the theater because everyone else was silent while we were laughing out loud to like moments. I was like, I guess no one else caught it. It's just funny. And it's just the way it just for me and I think my mom's also from El Paso and Juarez, Mexico, and my dad too. And so I told them afterwards, my sister and I saw like, okay, we're taking you again to see it next week. I'm telling all my friends, everyone needs to see this who's from El Paso, like at least just to see like we have a superhero. But overall, like it definitely what you were saying had an Iron Man vibe. Yeah,
big time Iron Man, especially when you goes into references the second Blue Beetle, Ted. And I got the names. Ted Cord. Thank you very much for some, because I know a Ted Yoder and my brain keeps wanting to say that. But yeah, Ted Cord was like the second one, which was the fun part is my buddy Philip, who I had with me, who's also my pastor. I've known him since I was 7. That was his favorite iteration of the Blue Beetle. And he said like the first guy wasn't really around that long. And then Ted Cord came along and was kind of the main one.
Dan Garrett was the first Blue Beetle.
There you go.
Yeah. And he appeared, the 1939's Mystery Men Comics #1. As the masked hero Blue Beetle, and then 20 years later is kind of where, where we are now. But
I always get my ages wrong, but I call it like the golden age where things really popped when like you had the Avengers and the X-Men and stuff in the 60s, and like you've got like newer versions and everybody gets updated. And then of course DC like rebooted themselves in the 80s to give a slightly different origin to Superman. And
I really love the ode. Like I never watched like the Ted Kord version of like Blue Beetle and stuff like that, but I really love the ode to it of like the costumes, the layer,
the Beetle mobile thing, whatever, the flying Beetle.
Exactly. Like I think even though I wasn't as familiar with it, I can appreciate it. And I think anyone who remembers at least from or is really into like collecting comics from DC, like I think even seeing that would make any person happy. But yeah, that was really cool about having Ted Kord. He's the second Blue Beetle in DC's comics history, and to have him as a part of this. And Jaime Reyes didn't really come out of his version until 2006. So seeing that kind of like come together was really cool to see. And obviously at the very end, spoilers, if this is already spoilers, you're already here. But
this is kind of a funny,
he's alive.
Funny conversation that Philip had, because Philip, loving that iteration, the Ted Kord used to team up frequently with Booster Gold. And he was talking about, he'd always imagined Booster Gold would be great if ever played by Owen Wilson. And so I thought, because we didn't get to see Ted Kord's face, so they could cast just about anybody. So how much fun would it be if they get somebody like Ben Stiller and they get Owen Wilson and Booster Gold shows up? That would be fun. And Booster Gold, I think, did show up in Batman the Brave and the Bold, and he's a very fun character, very much an egomaniac. So that would actually be kind of fun to do, bring those two characters in and just expand this newer DC universe. Because from what I've been hearing, James Gunn does want to keep Jaime around with the new stuff. I'm like, please do, because I love Zolo anyway from Cobra Kai. So when I saw the first trailer and I saw Zolo, when there was like, dude, it's Miguel, it's Miguel. So I was pretty excited for that. And then seeing later George Lopez with his one line that was funny in the trailer was, Batman's a fascist.
Well, it's funny because the trailer doesn't do it justice, to be honest. Oof. I think there was so many parts of this film that I was trying to show my friend of she's also from El Paso, and I was showing her, you need to see it. I was like, the trailer doesn't do it justice. You just got to see it in person. Yeah. But yeah, that's what's cool about, I think, at least for this one. I'm worried a little bit just because, I don't know how many people are going to go watch this film, because there hasn't been as much. I don't think there's been as much media coverage or marketing over this film as other DC films has been in the past. But yeah, James Gunn's, DC Universe, like he said, like he wants this to be a part of the new franchise. So yeah, I
have faith in James Gunn of what when he talks about Superman. I finally want to see, because I didn't have a problem with Henry Cavill as Superman. I thought he looked great, and he's a great actor.
He was amazing.
But the way they wrote Superman was not good. Superman can be in a dark area, but he himself cannot be dark, or he's just not Superman.
Yeah.
Batman is dark. Superman is never dark. Superman is the light in the darkness, and I really don't feel like they captured that. And to hear James Gunn talk about what he wants to do with Superman, I'm like, oh, finally, I feel like we're going to get back to the Christopher Reeve like I grew up with. Christopher Reeve was my Superman, and always will be. And that's like my early years was like Superman and then Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. And who would have known that the bigger influence in my life would have been Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, as I later got on to be a Spider fan. But
there were so many references to DC. Like they reference Metropolis has Spider-Man. Uncle Rudy says later.
Metropolis has Superman. You mean you got Spider-Man in the brain?
Spider-Man. Oh my gosh, Superman.
It's my fault. I'm Spider-Man.
I know.
And seeing the LexCorp building that was out there, and I was like, I'm glad it wasn't a fully packed theater, because I was nudging Philip on point, like, look, because all the stuff that I know of DC, I've seen stuff show up, like, that's cool. It's like it's fully integrated, and the things that were getting mentioned, and one thing I do still have some faith in this movie, because I'm thinking way back 2008 Iron Man. I'm surprised there was people who didn't know who Iron Man was, but they checked this movie out and loved it. And I feel like, okay, if people will give Blue Beetle the chance, even if they're like, I don't know Blue Beetle. It's like, well, you didn't know Iron Man at the time. You didn't know a lot of characters that you loved from the first couple phases of Marvel. Give him a chance, and you're going to love this. Especially, it's funny, it's heartfelt, and really, like I said, Jaime does remind me of Peter Parker. He even has his father I saw when his father came around, I was like, honestly, there's his Uncle Ben right there.
Yes,
he always said the right thing.
That. And I thought about that the whole time. Like, he's gonna die. Someone's gonna die. I knew, because
But
he has his whole family. They're all fine. Well, even Miles Morales like has that kind of, I think that's what with Jaime, he feels it's comedic. He's funny. Like it has that definitely like Spider-Man mixed with Iron Man a little bit. And what's also, I pointed this out because my sister's a lawyer, so like I immediately see law, and I saw his T-shirt or sweater saying
yes, Gotham Law.
Gotham Law. I loved it. And Gotham Law University, and I was like, oh, what? And I was like, so Batman's definitely obviously a reference, like we see that, and Jaime, I guess he went to college in Gotham City.
Yeah.
And the third Blue Beetle, usually has some sort of connection to Batman in comics and other adaptations. So like that's what really makes me excited, because I think from here, it says like DC property, outside of comics was in Batman the Brave and the Bold as one of the first heroes Batman teamed up with in the show. So so I thought that was really cool. Like I really loved the ode to like other characters in it, because I think it even helped tie it for all the rest of us together.
Yeah.
Even like Central City was mentioned. Like Central City has the Flash, and I was like, the Flash, obviously. But did you hear what, like, the Flash was like the lowest rating superhero movie that's ever come out before, and so
but I had a lot of fun watching it.
Great. I enjoyed it. Yeah. I'm really easy to please. That's the thing. Like,
that's not
I'm
such
happy
a bad
with
thing.
anything. I watch Hallmark movies and I'm fine with it. So that just kind of shows my. So if you're listening to this review, maybe it's not so great, but it's fine. We're here to talk about it.
Right.
But I thought that was really cool to see that. I guess a part of it also, and I had the discussion with my sister, was there might have been just too much. More of the slangs and stuff, a little overkill in my book. I think they were really trying to portray they're Mexican kind of thing.
Yeah.
If you haven't caught it by now, and but there was a lot of slangs that I really enjoy. So the father, my brain is not remembering his name, pulling it up. Name is because I don't remember things.
That's why I bring up IMDb.
Alberto. Yeah, so Alberto, he would tell his son Flaco. And which means skinny.
Okay.
Yeah, and so that's a lot of things like that, and like at least in Mexican culture, like I'll have a lot of cousins. Like we called one of my cousins Flaca, and stuff like that, which is just normal. It's just part of it. Like there's a whole problem with that in itself, but just how it is. But cabezón, he'll say cabezón like Rudy would say it, and cabezón just means big-headed.
Oh,
so
other times I thought, because isn't the word for heart, which I've heard of, a lot of
corazón.
Yeah,
so that's what I'm saying.
I heard that,
but he said cabezón, which means like big-headed, like big head, kind of thing.
Because I was taking everything as like my heart, like I love you, your family. It's like my corazón. That's what I was thinking of it. So
it was like cabezón, like. Hey, big head over here, kind of thing.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's why it's so much funnier. Like, there was things that they didn't translate either, that a little saying.
Yeah. I noticed that. Like, they said something like, and I've looked down at the bottom of the screen, like, wait,
it's not here. Yeah, no.
It's like Uncle I studied Rudy in high school, really but I wasn't good at it. All right. So before you leave us there, meh. Not Mary. Well, you have to tell us, where can people find you, and where can people find Nerds and Jesus?
Yes. We are everywhere. Nerdsandjesus.com.
Nerds is everywhere, and Jesus is omnipresent. So yes, you're everywhere.
Exactly. Everywhere. Nerdsandjesus.com. And on there, it will take you to all the fun things. We got a merch store. We got a Patreon page. All over social media, Nerds and Jesus podcast. But also all the links to social media is also on the website. So if you just want to like direct a link to it, best way. Also on TikTok. So fun thing, so we're in, don't have a Twitter, actually, but I joined on the Threads train, so I'm over there too now.
Everybody hopped on and jumped right back off.
So I'm technically there. I do post there too, but I'm more active on Instagram and TikTok. Instagram Reels is fun too. That's like kind of meme reels is kind of my thing. A lot of it online, but so just find us over there, nerdsandjesus.com.
Now, is that with the word "and" when they go to the website, or they need an ampersand?
And like A-N-D.
The A-N-D. Okay, good to clarify, because I think when on your podcast, you have the ampersand on your logo, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
So,
but like technically you can't do that when you make a website.
Yeah, so. I guess not. You can't use those things. They tell you to put fancy symbols in your password, but you can't put it on a website. Why? Why?
No, it doesn't work. Nah,
It's probably stuff I'm not supposed to question, but I do it anyway.
Could join the community.
Yes, I joined the community. Come and join us. Be a nerd who loves Jesus.
Yes. Yeah. I actually just did what's it called? Added a new shirt through our merch site that says "I'm a nerd who loves Jesus."
There you go.
So there you go.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming by the show today and sharing. Your insights are fantastic. I learned some stuff. I'm like, oh, so now next time I watch it, I'm gonna be like,
there you go.
this means I can't wait to tell Philip some of the stuff I've learned now. I'm like, oh hey, the little CH little guy, that's a real thing.
I could be your Latina correspondent.
There we go. So,
so this is what this means.
I feel like we need to have a Coco viewing somehow or another. I don't know. I might have to think of a thing.
I'll just keep crying.
Yeah.
I don't want to cry again.
Okay. But
we should.
Your perspectives on Coco would probably be different. There's stuff that you're going to get out of it that I didn't. I mean, I knew, because I remember when studying Spanish and stuff, we did talk about the Day of the Dead and all that stuff. And I learned a lot about the Day of the Dead, even covering that movie. But you're going to have a different perspective and you're going to know things that I would not have caught that they probably threw in there. Like, I can't remember, I remember there was a specific thing, like the different colored banners that were going across the streets have meaning and purpose, and I forgot what that was. But I remember looking it up, and I thought, "Oh, that's really cool." And that even come up this week. I was watching, I'm getting maybe some early October vibes, but I was watching some people that were touring around like Terrytown for like Sleepy Hollow, and they went into this like little restaurant pub thing, and up on one side because they was doing all this Halloween kind of stuff, but they had a Day of the Dead display, and they had some of those banners hanging up. I'm like, "Oh, hey, those banners, they mean something." And I was like, I wish I remembered. But there's really, really neat. It's neat to learn about different culture things. It's always interesting because you get different perspective of stuff. It's really kind of cool. So, yeah.
So, definitely unique perspective. I think having both of us on it from both ends, seeing it with new set of eyes.
Yeah, definitely different set of eyes. Definitely helps.
Yeah.
Now I got some assistance here from some AI scripting to help me get some history of the Blue Beetle as far as the comics. So let me just read this, what I actually got using some AI assistance. Our tale begins in 1939 amidst the golden age of comics, created by Charles Nicholas Wodkowski. I don't know how to say this. Wodkowski, writing under the name Charles Nicholas. The first Blue Beetle, Dan Garrett, burst forth in Mystery Men Comics #1. Garrett, a police officer, donned a blue suit and utilized a unique serum to gain incredible strength and agility. His crime-fighting escapades, battling gangsters and spies, paved the way for the endearing legacy of the Blue Beetle. As we fast forward to the Silver Age of comics, a new chapter unfolds. In 1966, Steve Ditko and writer Gary Friedrich resurrected Blue Beetle with a fresh persona, Ted Kord. Unlike his predecessor, Kord relied on his brilliant mind and ingenious gadgets to combat evildoers. Oops, I almost jumped ahead. Oh, goodness. There we go. Kord's quick wit and endearing personality made him a fan favorite, including Philip, leaving an indelible mark even after his tragic fate in the Crisis on Infinite Earths event. But the Blue Beetle saga continued its evolution. In 2006, Keith Giffen, John Rogers, and Cully Hammer introduced us to Jaime Reyes. Fusing with an ancient scarab amulet, Reyes gained a powerful suit and extraordinary abilities. Jaime's journey was a testament to his struggle for control and self-discovery, resonating with readers through his relatable challenges. As time marched on, Blue Beetle remained a steadfast presence across DC storylines, adaptations, and crossovers. A character with such diverse incarnations demonstrates the timeless allure of the Blue Beetle narrative. From Dan Garrett's courageous beginnings to Ted Kord's inventive heroism and Jaime Reyes' inspiring voyage, Blue Beetle stands as a symbol of the ever-evolving superhero realm. And you were telling me, Phil, that you were mainly a big fan, like a lot of other people, of Ted Kord.
Yes. Yeah, I grew up. Now, I had a couple books that would talk more about the original. I can't remember his name right now.
Dan Garrett.
Dan Garrett.
Dan Garrett, I think was who I was just saying. Yes.
Yeah, but he looked to me like basically a cheap knockoff version of the Phantom, the original one. And he really did. He was like wearing blue with the black mask and
the red belt, apparently.
Red belt. And that's basically it. He looked like the Phantom to me. And but then whenever they brought out Ted's, I loved him. I'd read him. I used to go to this place called the Paperback Rack.
Oh, I remember that.
Oh yeah, and you could get like backup comic books that were, for sometimes it's 25 cents or a dime or whatever. Back then, that was, it was good. And or sometimes it'd be a nickel, and I would pick up some, and I get some of Blue Beetle, and sometimes I get some of Blue Beetle with Booster Gold, and they would run around together. And I love those comic books. So those two were running around together as a team. But they were kind of what I loved about those two together. In fact, I think they made an episode about them on the Justice League Unlimited, which is my favorite, because you get a whole bunch of characters.
Yeah, there were so many characters on that.
Yeah, and I loved it because you get characters that get kind of overlooked.
Yeah.
And those two together were fun because they're kind of like your outcast characters that don't get looked at much.
Right.
And those two together were great. And I loved them together. They kind of team up, and I just thought they were so great. And so whenever they were originally moving on from Ted to a newer character, I remember I think it was like 2009,
2006.
10, I don't remember what.
Yeah, Philip wasn't able to hear me read all that because he was trying to check something on his phone, so he didn't hear. 2006 is when Jaime Reyes popped up because Ted Kord disappeared during the Crisis on Infinite Earths.
I just remember that it was a change. They were, at that time, changing stuff over, and I wasn't too fond of. I'm not big into change, but that being said, I understood why they did. If they're going to do it with characters, you cannot do it with Bruce Wayne so much, and you can't do it with Kal-El as Superman. You can't do it with those.
Although they are.
But you could. But they always bring it right back.
Yeah.
They better. After a year or two, you always know you have to. So
yeah.
But you can do it with the side characters like that because. And that's always a good thing, but you can always usually, but even they did with Hal Jordan, but eventually they brought him back.
They had to bring Hal back,
because he was still the most beloved of all of them, and they found a good way to do it because they didn't do it very good the first time, and so they found a good way to do it, and boy, they did it right.
And they've even had to bring back Barry Allen.
Yeah, they did. They brought back a whole bunch of good.
Yeah, a lot of the people who were popular during the I guess that was the Golden Ages. What did it say back here in my stuff? I think it was the Silver Age is in the 60s.
Silver Age, yeah.
Those Silver Age characters,
Yeah, the Golden Age is the 40s. And
those original where you had Superman and Batman and those classics.
Yeah, because Batman and Superman and Batman, we're talking 1937 or 38, 39, and then 1940, we're talking Wonder Woman and all that stuff. And that in the 1940s, it was just a big kaboom, you know. And then through the 60s and 70s and 80s is where everything started changing over to the Silver Age.
Yeah. And we even got a complete reboot of the DC Universe in the 80s.
Yeah, we did.
Which I think was right after one of the Crisis events, wasn't it?
That was the Crisis, the very first Crisis in Infinite.
And they kept coming up with new Crisis. I remember you made jokes about it when we were filming our fan film.
We did. Yeah.
How many issues are the fans going to have to buy this time?
Yeah, Crisis and that Crisis and Infinite Crisis and Final Crisis. And you know what the Final Crisis is? Just the Crisis for now.
Yeah.
How many
until the next Crisis happens.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. But we are, I don't want to spoil anything, so I'm about to say, but we are hopeful for Ted Kord's future. We'll just leave it alone. We'll leave it alone. And I'm hoping maybe we'll get to see you in Booster Gold because I remember him from the Justice League Unlimited and he cracked me up.
I thought I saw it for a split second in the preview or like the commercial because it did a very quick background. My eyes are quick, and I thought, hey, that's the original costume of the Blue Beetle.
Yeah.
I could see the red belt, and I'm like, oh, I was like, hang on, because I was like, it's like a museum or something. But I love that you get to see costumes of characters and things, and that's fun,
Yeah.
Because I love somebody. Oh, that's no, I love silly. If you're look, it's comic book. In my opinion, if you're going to have the comic books, I think sometimes people get too serious. I love Batman. I really do. And I love Batman 89. But Batman 89 is still my favorite. And the reason is, don't get me wrong, I love the Dark Knight series. But the problem I have with the Dark Knight series and stuff after is they got a little too serious. Now, granted,
too realistic.
You kind of had to because of Schumacher. I love you. God rest his soul.
Yeah, he went too far the other way.
He went way too
1960s.
Yeah. But at the same time, I know he didn't mean to be goofy, but to be honest, he was asked in some ways to do that. Thanks a lot, Burton, for being so Burton.
Yeah.
in Batman Returns, because you all don't realize this now, but Tim Burton's Batman Returns was not a huge hit like you think it might have been.
It was not as big as the 89, that's for sure.
No, it wasn't, and it was also a lot of parents were upset about it.
Yeah,
And
my mom sure was. Woo.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that were, and it did not do. And the only reason why Penguin was acceptable at all in the film, you can thank McDonald's for that,
because they wanted to sell stuff. Yeah.
Tim Burton wanted him to only be in his underwear the whole time.
Yeah,
He was
which is
disgusting.
nasty.
Yeah, and so Tim Burton is a weirdo. I love him, but he's a weirdo. He just is not, and he didn't even want to do it. And the only reason
he did it, so he wanted to do it his way completely, and that's why we got what we got.
Kind of ruined it. It kind of ruined it. Now he was willing to change it for the third film, and but they didn't give him a chance, which is a shame. But it's a shame. It's just a shame because I would have loved to see what he would have done.
Yeah.
But so we kind of have that now in the new comic book they brought out, which is fun.
Yeah. Well, I won't comment on that because I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would have.
Yeah.
It was not as good as I thought. So,
but it was still better than nothing.
Yeah, it was nice to read it though.
Yeah.
But we got to keep the show moving, and we still got to talk about another movie.
There's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Blue Beetle. Yes, which we've. If you didn't catch from Mary and I, we absolutely love the movie. It's hilarious. It was a great movie.
And George Lopez, I was so excited.
Mm-hmm. You're basically saying stuff that Mary and I already said. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So I need to move on to Ninja Turtles. I'm sorry you didn't get to be part of the review. I know. But yeah, I know you had as much fun as I did. I know.
I laughed so hard I was in tears.
Yep.
No joke. I was honest to God in tears watching that movie. And my nephew Freddie, he talked about that movie so much throughout this weekend. He hugged me later on and said, "Thank you." He said, "I love that movie. He goes, that's my favorite movie of the year so far." That's what he said to me. And he goes, "Thank you for making my summer fun." That's what he said to me.
Okay.
And I thought that was so cute.
Yeah, because he's back in school now. I bet today.
Today is his first day back at school.
Yeah, because that's the first day Heather had her students back up on Lathrop,
thank you for letting us take him.
Awesome. Okay, but we really got to get going. So, should I hit the button again? No, I'm not going to, because we're just going to switch movies. TMNT, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. We actually went ahead and went out to watch it because I've seen a lot of people saying positive things, and even had a guy at work, Landon, if he's listening to the show, he says he thought it was Seth Rogen, and the stuff he saw in the previews was cringy as much as I did. And he had a friend who's a big Turtle fan who went to a sneak preview and came back and says, "No, I actually liked it." So Landon says, "All right, well, I'll go see it. If I like it, I'll tell you." And he liked it, so he came and told me that he liked it as well. Yeah. So I said, "All right, Phil, for your birthday, I'm taking you out. We'll go ahead and we'll pull the trigger and we'll go watch this movie."
Yeah.
And overall, I'd say, as far as the movie goes, I enjoyed it.
Me too.
As far as being an animated movie that you're pushing, kids are going to watch, please don't cuss in a movie that kids are going to go after because you've animated it that way. That was of two complaints I would have. It's that I still don't like that animation style that much, and it was really hard to tell when an action sequence kind of happened. Choppy. It was choppy and hard to tell what was going on. And then the cussing and stuff that was inappropriate, and even having a joke that was kind of a gross joke that I heard a kid instantly repeat. And I'm like, yeah, right, thanks, parent. Yeah. But the other thing that bugged me, and this is where I'm going to get in, where I said at the beginning of the show that you don't learn martial arts through watching it on TV.
Oh yeah.
Imagine that is the new origin of the turtles, is you just have a regular old New York rat and some baby turtles that get mutated and then decide, well, because this version of Splinter does not trust humans, he figures, well, we need to be able to protect ourselves from the humans, so we're going to watch Jackie Chan movies and study what Jackie Chan does, and that's how they learn. I'm like, okay, but the part that makes that work, though, for the movie is cute, they kind of get trounced a lot.
Yeah, that
because
part was cool.
You don't really learn by watching TV. So they can handle themselves with like some regular thugs that are too freaked out to the fact that they're fighting with giant turtles. But when they have some real foes and dangerous foes, they're in over their head. They're not like the level of ninjas anyway. Especially if you're looking at Jackie Chan, ninja and ninjutsu is from Japan. Jackie Chan is kung fu. That is not a ninja. If you master that, you're a sifu.
Yeah.
It's a completely different thing. So this should have been, as Ray Stevens actually made a parody song, Teenage Mutant Kung Fu Chickens. That's what this was. This was Kung Fu Turtles, not Ninja Turtles. But if you take all that away from it, though, it was still a fun movie, and I still had a good time watching it. I just have some complaints of some stuff that I had to roll my eyes at.
Yeah, I'll probably thought of it as a jerk. I still could not think of that character as April O'Neil. Mm-hmm. Just me personally.
Like, if you're going to race swap her, at least make her pretty. I mean, golly.
Yeah, and You know, because they had a cartoon, was it Nickelodeon?
Yeah, Rise of the Ninja Turtles actually had they race swapped April. That's the first time they did it, and so
they did that, but they also
based
did
on it.
And I was told by someone, they were saying, well, because she was originally black in the
No, she wasn't.
book.
Bastard
And
Stockman
I said,
was.
no, she wasn't. They said, oh, her hair was curly and kinky, and I said, so. She looked more to me, and this is just my personal opinion, but to me, I thought she looked more like I can't think of the actress's name, but the one from Alien. She looked more like
Weaver?
that. Yeah, Sigourney Weaver. Yeah, she looked more like that because I mean that was real popular. At the time.
Well, she was actually, I think, based on one of them's girlfriends, either Eastman or Laird. If I've heard that correctly, yeah, I think they based her off of one of their girlfriends.
Exactly, that's right. I remember reading that.
Yep.
And you're right. But it definitely wasn't black. But they're like, oh, it was in black and white. But that doesn't mean.
But you could tell the difference. Like Baxter Stockman had, great, tones to where you could tell Baxter Stockman was a black man.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
he looked very different from April, who she was an assistant. But overall, you had fun with the movie too, didn't you?
Oh, I did. I loved it. I did.
So because there was actually some good humor in it. It wasn't all cringy.
Yeah.
There were some good jokes.
The only other complaint I had in it was the voices. Some of the voices didn't seem right in it. Like Donatello's voice
should have been Michelangelo's voice.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you're gonna have a voice that sounds like a 10-year-old, because it was almost predominantly 12-year-old at the oldest.
Yeah, and he sounded like a 7-year-old to me.
Yeah, he was really young sounding and obnoxiously so to me.
Michelangelo's super deep voice should have been Raphael's voice.
Yeah, they just because you can tell someone's voice, you know who they're supposed to be, and they had that wrong.
Yeah, Leonardo's voice matched and fit for him. Yeah. That one was the only one that actually worked. I mean, I didn't mind the voice actors, but they were just cast as their own characters.
Yeah. But Donatello's got on a ever-loving nerves the whole time. He's like, the whole time.
Like a little
I was
kid.
like, oh, yeah, he did.
Yeah.
But everyone else, though, but the rest of it was good.
Mm-hmm.
And I really liked Jackie Chan in there.
Although, what the heck were those things poking out of Splinter's head?
I think they're supposed to be hair.
Yeah, I know, like clumps of hair just randomly sticking out. I was like, are these like eyebrows? I've never seen a rat with that. I didn't know what the heck they were doing. The character designs were ugly. The turtles were okay, but most of the character designs were ugly.
Yeah,
for all across the board.
There were scribble marks, because it's supposed to be a weird style. I understand.
They tried too hard to look like the Spider-Verse animated films.
Yeah, so there's like scribble marks that would just like appear, and I think it was trying to be its own style because there's been so many Ninja Turtle things.
Yeah,
so they're trying to be different, but that was kind of strange. Like you just see scribble marks showing up on little things. Oh, that's odd.
Yeah. And heck, having a weird origin, we'll get into this in just a second, but I'm going to play some audio from Encyclopedia Britannica. I love the fact that you can listen to an article. So let me just hit this button and we'll listen to this real fast.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Recent news. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, TMNT, comic book series about a quartet of human-like warrior turtles, which grew into an enduring multimedia franchise. Born of a radioactive accident, raised by a talking rat, and named for Renaissance painters, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, cool-headed leader Leonardo, fun-loving Michelangelo, misspelled as Michelangelo in early stories, bookish Donatello, and hot-tempered Raphael, delivered vigilante justice to the streets of New York City. There and across the world they fought gangs, aliens, and monsters, but their greatest foe was Shredder, an evil warrior who led a ninja gang called the Foot Clan. The series and its characters were created in 1983 by cartoonists Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird, who published the first TMNT comic book, 1984, in black and white, financed by a tax refund and a family loan. They also put together an inexpensive press kit and mailed it to a number of media outlets. Their kit generated a surprising amount of coverage, and the series became one of the early success stories of the burgeoning direct retail comic book market. Shortly thereafter, Eastman and Laird began a long-running relationship with licensing executive Mark Friedman, reorienting the often grim and gritty series toward the lucrative children's market. The TMNT brand spawned a popular animated television series, 1987-96, and a handful of live-action movies, as well as video games, toys, and other merchandise. The franchise's popularity waned in the late 1990s, but the early 21st century saw a resurgence of interest, especially with the computer-animated film TMNT, 2007, and additional forays into television. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2014 rebooted the live-action film franchise in blockbuster fashion, earning nearly $500 million in global box office receipts. A sequel, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Out of the Shadows, was released in 2016.
Okay, so there's your quick two-minute history of as likely Britannica can give you. But now we mentioned like weird stuff going on with origins on Ninja Turtles, right? So when we grew up, we saw the animated series and we got a pretty plausible thing that you had an alien mutagen, and Hamato Yoshi was hit with it, and he got turned into a rat because he had been in contact with those rat friends. And the turtles being in contact with a human, they turn human. So you get a realistic believability of how they mutate and how they learn ninjutsu.
As realistic as that can be.
Right. It's plausible. You can go with that. It's plausible. Now, of course, you go with the original version. You did have what was presented in the movie, except for you had a Roku Nagi and a Roku Saki. So you had two different ones. One was the Shredder and one was was a Foot Clan thing. And you had the story as presented pretty much by the movie, where you had a Hamato Yoshi coming to America with Tang Shin, his bride, and his rat Splinter mimicking his moves from a cage. And then when they get mutated, and which was neat, it was actually a tribute towards Daredevil, because they loved Daredevil, of that, same chemical that was supposed to have taken away Daredevil's sight. Instead of the hand, you get the foot, but that same chemical that had hit, I forgot his name though, but Daredevil's eyes is what mutated the turtles and Splinter. And you know what? It seems a little ridiculous that a rat is mimicking ninjutsu and learning it enough to train, but for some reason that was plausible. That worked for us. But then we get some of the stuff that happened in that other live action that's mentioned, the Michael Bay, and you have the weird lab things, and they get named by April and they get Renaissance names, but they learned everything by finding a book in the sewer. You just happen to find a book on ninjutsu in the sewer, and you just happen to know how to read when you're a daggum turtle and a rats? Didn't make any sense to me. No longer plausible. But now let me read to you what IDW has done, and I guess Kevin Eastman has been part of it, because now Peter Laird sold out his stuff, and I think that's how Nickelodeon's gotten the rights. But he's changed the origin, and that's what's currently running right now, okay? So look, let me read you Volume 1 here. It says, Hamato Yoshi is a member of the Foot Clan, led by Oroku Saki, during Japan's feudal period. So we're going back. So that kind of works. After seeing Saki act ruthlessly, Yoshi leaves the clan and is marked a traitor, and Saki orders Yoshi's entire family to be put to death. Yoshi's wife, Tang Shin, is attacked and severely wounded, and with her last breath, she beseeches Yoshi to protect himself and the children. He flees with the boys. They have 4 children. He flees with the boys and remains on the run for several years. Saki, who will later be known as Shredder, eventually finds Yoshi and his children and murders them all. Yoshi and his son's spirits are reincarnated in modern times as a gray rat and 4 green turtles in a research laboratory called StockGen, owned by Baxter Stockman, a scientist who has recently allied himself with Krang. An intern at StockGen, April O'Neil, names the turtles after Renaissance artists Leonardo, Michelangelo, you know what I mean. Members of the Foot Clan break into the facility to steal an alien mutagen. The animals are taken by mistake, and when they and the stolen mutagen get lost in the sewer, they are covered with the spilled mutagen and transformed into enlightened humanoid beings. Which apparently now, this is where Yoshi's going to remember his past life, because they're reincarnated as animals. And this is where he's going to train his children. They're his literal sons now that turned into turtles. Why did he get a rat? Why did they all become turtles? I don't know. The plausibility is gone. At least, the only thing that makes sense is the mutation. But I guess they wanted a better way for them to have known ninjutsu, and I guess that works. But they're reincarnated like centuries later as a rat and turtles. Oh my gosh. They have lost their ever-loving minds at this point. I tell you. But the turtles meant a lot to us as kids. I remember it happened. It was during the summer when I first saw the miniseries, and it came on instead of Silverhawks in the early morning at like 8 o'clock. And I was getting ready for Silverhawks, and all of a sudden Ninja Turtles comes on. I was like, what is this? And I liked it, but they showed it again in the afternoon, which was good because I was trying to explain it to my brother and sister. Like, oh, no, you got to check the show out. And then it came on in the afternoon. We watched it. I remember the second or third day, I watched it in the morning, and then by the time I was re-airing in the afternoon, I was actually really sick and laying in the bathroom floor throwing up and stuff all day. I don't know why. I had a 24-hour flu bug or something, but I still was a big fan of the Turtles. And then, of course, we picked up with basically season 2 after the miniseries. And, I mean, watched it every day, 4:30, every day. Did not miss it. And then eventually, of course, by the 4th season, you end up on Saturday mornings on CBS because the movies had come out and made it even more popular. And it was, and it's what's fun is I've actually now spoken with 2 and I'm going to say and a half turtles because I've met Rob Paulson. I didn't get to interview him. To not at least not record. I talked to him. I kind of interviewed and asked him some questions about the Rise of the Turtles because he was directing it. I've had Townsend Coleman, Michelangelo, on the show at least twice. And, of course, he's on Adventures in Odyssey. And then Greg Berg, who's been on the show, who was Baby Fozzie on the Muppet Babies, actually was that fill-in voice you'd hear occasionally for Donatello and Krang. Whenever they didn't sound right, it was Greg Berg, who did a really good job voicing the characters, actually. But you could tell it was different. Now, I think he says why he was sometimes filling in on those roles at certain times. I can't remember what he had said, but go back or do a search on our website, neverlandpodcast.com. If you go into the podcast page and then do in the search engine for Greg Berg, I'm sure he explained it, but I just forgot what had happened. But, of course, he's not going to turn down that job to be able to either voice Krang or to voice Donatello. And he did a good job.
It was really strange. It's really strange to hear Krang suddenly say, waka waka.
But you can even tell, even one episode, you had taped on a videotape, like 3 episodes. And I remember one of them was where Michelangelo, whenever you'd say Shredder, he would turn into Shredder or what? Or no, Shredder would become Michelangelo because they had all this research on Michelangelo in this computer, and Shredder wandered into it, thought he was a Michelangelo. But that's one of the ones when you hear Craig talk, you can tell it's Greg Berg. That's one of the ones I remember. But I remember actually those 3 episodes. I actually because I had to get that tape back too, so I played the tape and I recorded the audio on a cassette tape so I could listen to those 3 episodes over and over again on a cassette tape before I had to get that back to because I was big fans. I didn't really have a lot of the toys. I got more toys now.
I used to record them every day.
I wanted to start recording it, but I wanted to get it from the miniseries at the start of my tape, and I never caught it at the right time. Unlike X-Men, the animated series, where I did mostly catch it.
Yeah. Turtle power.
And the other fun thing is, while I was in community college, I had like this dream and this wish in the morning, like, man, I wish that they would put that series on DVD or something. I would certainly go buy it. And then I had to go get something at Walmart. And I just happened to see there it was, called Season 1, but it's basically the miniseries, was there actually in Walmart that day. I bought it instantly.
I was so excited when I had brain surgery, my first one. My mother came home with these pies from Hostess, and they were so good. They were and I remember because I was watching that night. They had this anniversary from some show called All in the Family, and I was watching. I'd seen bits of it when I was young, and it was one of my favorite shows, my second favorite sitcom actually. And I was sitting there watching that. And I was eating those pies, and it was the first ones that they only had the vanilla. Oh, it's still my favorite. And they had that green icing, and they came with these stickers, and that's what I would put on those tapes was those yellow Ninja Turtle stickers, and I'd put them on those tapes, and that's what I would record all those shows on. Was those little videotapes that had the yellow stickers with the Ninja Turtles on it. And I remember very well the one that had Michelangelo. He'd be on a skateboard. And he'd be skating on that, and I can't remember exactly what Leonardo was doing, but each one had a different sticker, and collect all 5 or whatever they say on the thing. But you could get I think there's like 5 or 6 different stickers, at least 4. But you had to keep buying those pies. Boy, I miss those pies. Were dadgum good.
Yeah, I think it was vanilla pudding, just green color.
No, it was. It was. It was vanilla pudding, and there's a green. And then later on, they brought out a chocolate. But that was just right before they ended. And but I didn't really want chocolate. That vanilla pudding was so good.
And they had like pizza flavored chips and stuff like that.
Oh, I love that. Those chips were good, and they were round. And they would. They had so many. You could go out and get like animal crackers that were shaped like the Ninja Turtles, and you could get. There was so much out there. Anything turtles. You had. Ninja Turtle macaroni, and you had a hamburger helper, and anything almost. It was like you dream it, they would have it. It's just like with all things, they saturate the market, but it's okay. It's part of the fun, you're going to have cereal, you're going to have, which they have again right now for the new movie.
Yeah, and it's not bad. It's not bad.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah, I haven't yet to try that, but they have just about anything. Oh, high C.
Yeah.
You always get some high C or something like, whoa, cowabunga juice or ooze or something. You're going to get that, brother.
Yeah, and my mom tried to keep me away from all that because by the time the movie was coming out, she'd heard some bull crap story about some kid stabbing his brother saying the Ninja Turtles did it.
I know.
And it was a lie. Probably the Beavis and Butthead setting fire or something was probably a lie too, but they stopped doing any fire jokes. But so my mom kept me away from it. So it was through my friends I was actually able to still have some of the chips, because when you came over for my birthday, you brought our fruit pies and those chips, and we ate them as we were playing the Batman Nintendo game and watching the Jungle Book. Oh, heck yeah.
I remember that. So
Mom could not keep it away from me.
I was a bad influence. Cowabunga.
That's right. Well, heck, my uncle even tried to go and convince me. And the funny thing, Steve tries to say, well, if they're not violent, what do they do when the bad guys show up? And it's hard to explain it on the old animated series because it was very cartoony what they would do. And, you know, they would do some weird thing like make something fall down on the bad guys or something, some sort of cartoony thing. The only time they were actually able to fight anything was the miniseries where it was animated in a different place, and so the animation is actually a lot better. And they were okay because they said, okay, well, we'll make robots and you can destroy robots. But that was the closest thing to any violence that series ever had. No one ever complained about G.I. Joe with all the violence on G.I. Joe, with people getting shot and punched and everything else. But now Ninja Turtles were the problem. Oh! And the Ninja Turtles never did a violent thing in that show. It's so stupid.
They all heard it, really. All of them did. And I understand why they got some of that. You know, I get it. A parent has to be careful what they let their kid. I get all that. But
they're responsible to go overboard.
It is. It is. And the thing that I heard, you understand I'm a pastor's son. I was, and I'm a pastor now. And I understand you got to be careful. But I received a book at the time, talking about Batman and all that. I received a book that was trying to say that all this stuff was demonic and weird and new agey, and so on the frame
panic.
of the book, and so when I got this book to read it, the front of the book, and I'll never forget it. The front of this book, you have to understand, it shows these kids looking like they're brainwashed, and they're watching this TV, and on the TV you have looks like Michelangelo, I guess, coming out of because he was wearing orange. He's coming out of the TV and he's going like with his hands out, and he's like mesmerizing them and like brainwashing them, and they're watching him. And then around the TV you had a Batmobile, and you had like a Smurf on the ground, and you had on the floor, and you had all these other I think it was supposed to be Slimer and a couple other things. Is like how they're brainwashing your children, and I was like, come on. We all got to be careful what we watch, but you also can, if you go overboard, it's going to push them towards it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. And we watched all that stuff, and it didn't really mess us up. We just ended up having a podcast where we talk about it.
That's right. And God's still my number one. God is still my number one.
That's right. God is still number one. It did not take away, just because I'm surrounded in toys of He-Man, Leonardo, Spider-Man, and everything else in the world, and Ghostbusters, doesn't mean I don't love Jesus.
That's right.
All right. But we better wrap this up here.
Sure, yes.
Oh, which I got to go back to my show notes there again. Here, I'm looking at the other pages.
Oh, Ninja Turtles, yeah.
But, of course, I want to remind you to go to our website, neverlandpodcast.com, where you can find right in the middle of the page, if you happen to have a podcast and you want to be able to get your reviews, my podcast reviews, click that link, and I'll get a little bit of kickback for that if you go ahead and sign up. A very inexpensive service and get all the reviews sent to you. By the way, you can find everything you need right there to write some reviews. We haven't had a review in a while. And only you can help this show grow by telling your friends about all the fun you're having on this show, and that, hey, look, we actually get more of a Christian focus sometimes. We don't mind talking about Jesus now on this show.
Amen.
And so we look at everything from the eyes of Christians. And so now we not talk about God every episode, but let your friends know that, hey, you can let your kids listen to this because we ain't going to do anything foul on this show. Thank you.
That's right.
So, let everybody know that you're enjoying the show, and please do share it with others on social media, which, by the way, on social media, we do have stuff on Facebook and Twitter. I mainly recommend getting into the group under Neverland, the Fandom Nexus, because the group is where it's easier for me to share, because Facebook has changed things, and the fan page where you just I have to go through like a different profile, so it's harder for me to just pop up and share. So, but yeah, make sure you find us all the things. You can email us, podcast@neverlandpodcast.com. Please donate to the Patreon. You can find links for that right on our website, neverlandpodcast.com. And you can even join the Neverlanders there. We have Lost Boys there and Pixies. We have Pixies because girls are too clever. They don't get lost. And we'd, of course, like to thank Karen Kennedy, Ricky Pope of Christian Nerds Unite, and Darren Wilhite of the Wilhite and Wall Show for helping me out with the intro. And now we just want to remind you to get lost in an adventure. You had a little bit of a delay, but that's okay.
I did my best.
You beat me to the punch before. You just jumped in there before I got there. All right, but we'll see y'all next time.